right, so we are live. So we'll continue on with the meeting. Our meeting was called to order at 1:45, and we had a closed session item to consider regarding a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality. And direction was given to myself, the mayor, and clerk Camera. So that's the rise in report. Excuse me. So disclosure of pecuniary interest
has joined the meeting.
So disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. If there is something in the agenda that a council member has a pecuniary interest or general nature of interest in, you can make that statement now or at the time the item arrives in our agenda. So item D is approval of the agenda. I'm looking for a mover and seconder for approval of the agenda, please. Deputy Mayor Minnelli is moving. Councillor Holmes is seconding. Then all in favor, yes or no? Councillor Dalgety.
Yes.
Councillor Ferguson.
Yes.
Councillor Gerard.
Yes.
Councillor Holmes.
Yes.
Councillor Holmes.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Maiden.
Yes.
And Deputy Mayor Minnelli.
Yes.
Thank you. So the agenda is approved. And we have the approval of the minutes. These are for the council minutes from the meeting on April 7th, found on pages 4 to 10 in your agenda package. Looking for a mover and seconder for the minutes.
Ferguson, move.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson.
Maiden second.
Thank you, Councillor Maiden. All in favor then, yes or no? Councillor Dalgety.
Yes.
Councillor Ferguson.
Yes.
Councillor Gerard.
Yes.
Councillor Holmes.
Yes.
Councillor Maiden.
Yes.
And Deputy Mayor Minnelli.
Yes.
Thank you. Minutes are approved. So we're moving into the reports, and our first report is from the public library, the Mississippi Mills Public Library, and it's an update regarding COVID-19. And I believe we have our the CEO of the library on the call with us. Are you with us, Christine Rao?
Yes, I am.
There you are. Thank you for joining us on the call. Would you like to take a moment and walk through the report for council?
Sure. I just wanted to go through and just say that probably like every other department, we are adapting. We're adapting to a new way of providing service, and in our case, it's library. And so the big thing is we're just always looking for, how can we help? And we're continuously looking at ways to fill gaps in the community. So for instance, we know that families now are home. And so what we're trying to do is, how can we help make that transition easier for them? So things that we're doing, we're providing links to quality online learning resources. We also have free access to child-friendly resources as well, such as we've just now subscribed to Tumble Books, and we have Canopy for Kids. These are new resources. And we're also trying to always build, in this time of isolation, some community connections. So, for example, we have we're starting a Zoom baby time. And we have another thing, some interactive book clubs. And this is just a way for residents to find a connection online. Everything that's online needs to be monitored. So even our collection of books, our ebooks and our audiobooks, we constantly have to review the usage of this material. So just like the books on the shelf, we have to make sure if there's a long hold list, we have to see if we should purchase more copies. With this collection, it is trickier because this is a very expensive, these are very expensive materials. So for instance, a book that we buy from a vendor, a physical book, would cost us about $20 a copy. An online book costs $60 a copy. Audiobooks, $85 a copy. So we have to be incredibly frugal because we know that when purchasing this material now, it's going to impact our material budget for the rest of the year. So, but we know this is, the stats show that the demand for these e-resources has increased since we've been closed physically. I did list a bunch of tasks that we are doing, and these are, they're called collection maintenance. So the cataloging, the fixing the catalog, purchasing, all of that stuff, it continues, ongoing. It's something, it's a maintenance that every library does and continues to do. It's never ending. One thing that is becoming very evident now that we are closed is that there are many residents that are not able to use our online resources. We know in this community the digital divide is definitely real. Either they don't have access to quality internet, or they do not have the digital skills to use online resources. There's also a lot of people who just prefer physical material. And so we are lobbying to start a curbside delivery service to residents in Mississippi Mills. We know that during this time of isolation that access to library material is essential for many residents. We have the plan, we have the safety procedures, and we are just waiting for approval to move forward with this. Finally, I just wanted to say that we are right now starting to look at reopening plans. So what is that going to look like for us? Is it going to be partial opening, shorter hours? Is it going to be limiting the number of people in the building? What is it going to look like? Most important thing is, how are we going to go back? How are we going to make sure that residents feel safe in these public spaces when restrictions are lifted? So that's it. I know this is an incredibly unsettling time, and we have been very determined to help however we can. So I hope this report shows what we have been doing. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for the report. I'm going to go through the list of council members and see if they have any questions or comments to the report before we receive it for information. So I'm trying to be fair here. I started with Councillor Ferguson, so I'll start with Councillor Gerard. Any comments or questions for our Chief Librarian?
Yes, actually. My own question on page 12, it says with the notes, you're looking to boost the Wi-Fi to the garden. Is that something that is being considered soon? Because I believe we're requesting people not go out and sit in the park or sit in the garden, and I'm just wondering if that's just something that's looking to the future, or is that something that you're hoping to do soon?
That is something that we're hoping to do so that when restrictions do get lifted, that we are prepared, because I'm sure that, like I said, with the partial reopening, it's not going to be opening the doors right away. So just making sure that people have that access to the Wi-Fi when they can.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Holmes.
No comment.
Okay. Councillor Maiden.
Just to say that the next meeting of the library board virtually will be this Friday, April 24th at 2 o'clock, I believe, Christine, through the chair.
Yes.
Okay. And of course, Councillor Maiden is our council rep on the library board. Deputy Mayor Minnelli, any questions or comments?
No comment on the report, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Dalgety.
No comment.
And Councillor Ferguson.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick comment on Christine's last comment there, specifically the establishing the comfort zone. I think that's important as we're moving forward for all our facilities, and I think that's a very important item, establishing that comfort zone for clients.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Councillor Ferguson, and that'll be right across the board. If it's any of our services as a municipality as well, and in the community as well. It's all very much unknown territory right now. Well, thank you very much, Christine. I really appreciate the update and knowing how you're coping and how you're helping, and I appreciate seeing how all of these pieces are coming together for the library and how you're continuing to serve the community. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
So I'm looking for a mover and seconder to receive this report as information.
Councillor Maiden, move.
Okay, Councillor Maiden, and I see Councillor Holmes waving, so we have a mover and seconder. All then in favor of receiving this report as information, starting with Councillor Dalgety.
Yes.
Councillor Ferguson,
Yes.
Councillor Gerard,
Yes.
Councillor Holmes,
Yes.
Councillor Maiden,
Yes.
and Deputy Mayor Manelli.
Yes.
Thank you. So that report is received for information. And thank you again to Christine Rao, our CEO and Chief Librarian. So we'll move to the second report, which is from the Fire Department. And I believe we have Chief Brown with us on the call at this time. Just see. Yes, I think Chief Brown is there.
Yes, I am.
Good afternoon, Chief. I wonder if you could walk us through your report.
Certainly. So with the burning ban that was put in place on April 2nd, we still continue to have a number of burning concerns throughout the municipality. What we've done is we've added made some changes to the offenses and penalties portion of the bylaw, which will allow the fire department to do more enforcement as it relates to burning within the municipality, and move to a cost recovery structure so that the municipality retain all of the funds that are collected.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Chief. I'm going to look for a mover and seconder for the recommendation, and then go figuratively around the table for any comments and questions. Is there a mover and seconder for the recommendation from the Chief?
Councillor Dalgety.
Thank you, Councillor Dalgety.
Ferguson?
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. So we have a mover and seconder. And starting with Councillor Holmes, any questions to this update to the bylaw?
No questions, thanks.
Okay. Councillor Maiden?
No questions.
Deputy Mayor Manelli?
Not at this time.
Councillor Dalgety?
Not so much the actual bylaw, just a side question. Spring 2019, we received an annual incident report that is kind of aligned with this. Unless I missed it, would we be able to get a copy of that as well?
I can certainly have a look and see the report and update it.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything further, Councillor Dalgety?
That's it, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Ferguson, any questions or comments?
Just a question. Is the burning concerns, the continuation of the burning concerns, you feel it's out of lack of respect for the bylaw? Or is it the fact that the individuals did not receive the information?
It's unclear at this time. I would say that we continue to get complaints as early as this morning of people that ought to know that there is no burning but are still burning. The challenge is, of course, is there's always an excuse whenever we show up that they didn't know or they ought to have known. And in some cases, they've never had the required permit to even enter into the process to follow the bylaws. So there's a full gamut of reasons.
Good. Thank you.
Just Councillor Ferguson, if I could add a little bit more to it. The permit process that the municipality has had in place has been in place for a number of years, and that would usually be the trigger when someone calls in to activate, that we would have a conversation with them and say, here's how things have changed, or there's a burn ban in place, etc. So people aren't taking that step, and I think as Fire Chief Brown just mentioned, there's people that are catching that have never had a permit. So I think there's just there are some people who it's not a matter of we haven't communicated with them, they haven't heard. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mayor Lowry.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your comments. Was there anything further, Councillor Ferguson?
No, thank you very much for the answer. Appreciate it.
Okay. And Councillor Gerard, any questions or comments?
Yes, thank you. I guess my only concern is with regards to the burning. If someone is burning in a barrel, as per se, like a controlled burn, is that also? I know you can burn the gas fires in town, but in the country there are people who do use a contained system for burning. Is that also against the rules? Because as a councillor, I don't even know that, and I'm not sure if all the constituents know that.
Yes, that burn barrels, campfires, all burning is not permitted. All of the communication, both on our internal system and everything that we've published, including social media and sent out through news release, confirms that there's no open air burning permitted at all.
Okay, as I said, I personally live in the country, don't get the paper, and now I am on Facebook, but I am aware of people in the more rural areas that do not necessarily follow the rules for burning, because they have always burned in a barrel. So are there going to be is there going to be explanations, or are we just going to go right into enforcement?
So we have gone through some explanation. Even with the burn barrel, the bylaw requires you to have a permit. And when you try to activate the permit, it tells you specifically that your permit is not valid and that there is no burning.
Okay. All right. I can see there being a problem with that, and I guess if someone has done this and has been told previously in this obviously in 2020 that this is something they're not allowed to do, I understand if they would be fined. But my thought would be, if it's somebody who has not been directly discussing, I know that we have a burning permit that you can call in and register for, but again, for someone who does not realize that it's an issue, will they still be getting fined, or are they actually going to be given at least one warning?
We would have to look at it on a case by case. We are now entering the realm of enforcement, and I would say that we would likely continue on the strict enforcement, as we've already exhausted a month of warnings.
Chief Brown, I just wonder if you can comment if often these bans we would put on the radio as well. My understanding is that it was distributed to radio stations in the area as well, the burn ban information. Can you confirm that was the case?
That is correct. I believe it's Lake 88, on the radio was on behalf of all the county fire departments, did play and is currently playing, I believe, the no burning information for all of Lanark County. On top of that, again, if you follow the legal process that has been in place in the bylaw since 2017, there's no possible way for you to actually burn legally, because our burn system will not allow you to do it. So the only people here that are going to get caught in enforcement are those who have chosen not to follow the bylaw that's been in place since 2017.
Thanks for that clarification. I think I've gone through the list. I started, I think, with Councillor Holmes. Yes. Is there any further comments from anyone? I'll just give a moment. Okay, and I believe I have a mover and seconder already. Can you confirm that, Madam Clerk?
Yes, we have Dalgety and Ferguson as mover and seconder.
Perfect, thank you. So I'm going to go to the vote then, starting with Councillor Dalgety. In favor of the recommendation, yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Ferguson?
Yes.
Councillor Gerard?
Yes.
Councillor Holmes?
Yes.
Councillor Maiden?
Yes.
And Deputy Mayor Manelli?
Yes.
Okay, and that carries. Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you.
We're moving over to several reports from Roads and Public Works. I just want to confirm that we have Mr. Dave Armstrong, the acting director, on the line with us.
Yes, I'm present. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So the first report we have is the award of contract for the mill workers stairs, tender number 20-08. The recommendation is that council award the contract for the tender number 20-08 mill workers staircase project to be awarded to Premium Construction in the amount of $127,700. This does not include HST. So to begin, I'm looking for a mover and seconder for this recommendation.
Councillor Maiden, so move.
Thank you, Councillor Maiden. Is there a
Deputy
seconder?
Mayor
Councillor
Manelli.
Holmes, seconds.
We'll get you next time, Deputy Mayor. So Councillor Holmes is the seconder. And Mr. Armstrong, I'll just go to you for some brief comments on this award of contract.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was under the impression that Corey Smith, our technologist, was going to be presenting that.
Oh, pardon me. Maybe I have this wrong. Let me take a look. Do we have Corey on the line?
It's not working.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, you can hear?
We can hear you.
Okay.
Thanks for joining the call. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's just standard award of contract. The tender came in within the budgeted amount. We just need approval and authorization to go ahead.
Perfect. Pretty clear. Any comments from yourself, CAO Kelly?
Just two. One, you'll notice in the report, we do talk about there are agreements that are required between two groups. One is a private property owner. The other is the MRPC. Now, there's a combination of construction agreements that are required for the contractor to enter into, and those are the contractor's responsibility to enter into and execute, as well as to provide us with a letter of satisfaction from those property owners when the work is done, that those property owners have signed off that things have been appropriately cleaned up and whatnot. So there's no existing damage or things that we will be left hanging over us to complete after the piece of work is done. The second set of agreements is for the ongoing, where the piece of work is going to take place on land other than our land. We are going to require an agreement for easements or encroachments onto those lands. So I don't know if Corey wants to speak more to that, but there are a couple of requirements there for those agreements to be put in place. And we want to see those take place before the construction actually takes place. So in the award of the contract here, there is going to be a little bit of a lag time in generally getting those things in place. We want to proceed with those. And we are going to be cognizant of the fact that there is a limitation on construction work, and whether work is essential or not, and whether things can proceed. Corey, I don't know if you want to speak to any of those issues. I'll leave it for that, Mayor Lowry. Thank you.
Okay.
As for those issues, the agreements between the MRPC and Lanark County, we are just negotiating with them as to what format they wish them in. I believe they're going to take the form of just a standard memorandum of understanding for those, for the long-term use of those, which is pretty simplified. Once we get their response, which we've reached out and we're just awaiting the response on what format, once we've received that, then we will move forward with executing those. As for the construction obviously will not be starting for a little while for various reasons due to the COVID. The contractor has agreed that we will just agree upon a timeline to start implementing the construction once all the regulations on the close quarters have relaxed.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Corey. I'm going to go through the list of councillors to see if there's any questions or comments from anyone, starting with Councillor Maiden.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if we should make the recommendation or our approval of it contingent upon a successful execution of these agreements and memorandum of understanding between the contractors and the other parties.
Yeah, go ahead, Corey.
So the difficulty with that is without a contract in place, they don't have authority to execute those.
Do you foresee any concerns in being able to establish those memorandums of understanding?
I don't believe so. The ones for the contractor are standard OPS, Ontario Provincial Standard memorandums that they would be issuing. I have personally spoke with the three parties involved, the private property owner as well as MRPC and Lanark County. They're all supportive of the project and aware of these conditions that'll be put in place. So it'll be a matter of just the contractor contacting them for this purpose.
Did you have further questions, Councillor Maiden?
No, and through the chair to Corey, thank you very much for the extra information.
Deputy Mayor Minnelli, any questions or comments?
Yes, just to let somebody know if they're listening online that this money was all raised independently from a separate group, and ex-Councillor Gillis and Nancy Scott were the two head people on the committee. It's not taxpayers' money that we're spending on this.
And Councillor Dalgety.
No, I'm good. No comment. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Ferguson.
No comment, thank you.
Councillor Gerard.
No comment, thank you.
And Councillor Holmes.
No comment, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, everyone. So we have a mover and seconder for this item. I will go through the list to vote. Councillor Dalgety, yes or no in favor of the recommendation?
Yes.
Councillor Ferguson?
Yes, Ferguson.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gerard?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Maiden?
Yes.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Minnelli?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That passes. So we're on to our next item, which is report number 4. This is the insurance payout for damaged dump truck, plow truck. And I know there has been some discussion about deferring this at this time. Is there someone who wishes to put that deferral on the floor? Councillor Holmes is moving. Is there a seconder?
Ferguson.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. And just to get some direction from our clerk, the deferral would require a date that this comes back, a specific date. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So Councillor Holmes, in deferring this, do you have a specific date in mind?
I would say our next council meeting.
Okay. So deferred to the next council meeting. That's in agreement for the seconder there, Councillor Ferguson? Okay. So deferring the matter to our next council meeting, I'm going to see if there's any comment from anyone on that. Deputy Mayor Minnelli, any comment on the deferral?
Does that leave enough time for staff to bring a report back for us?
So I'm looking for a response from either CEO Kelly or Mr. Armstrong, the acting director.
Well, I think Mayor Lowry through to Deputy Mayor Minnelli, we have had a number of questions. We have been working on them, and I do think if we have the sum total of the questions now, I think we can put something together to bring back a little bit more information for council's decision process. I think we're good, Dave. I don't know if you have any further information you want to bring forward at this moment in time, or we simply wait to pass it along in the next council meeting. But I think we should be okay. I think we've had a little bit of discussion. We have a gist of the additional information that's required for council.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. Thank you, Madam Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Minnelli. I believe if we have all the questions brought forward in the next couple of days, we can have something prepared for our May 5th council meeting.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Dalgety, any questions or comments on the deferral specifically?
After just hearing CAO Kelly, I have no further comments. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Ferguson, on the deferral specifically?
No, nothing other than the questions I've already posed.
Okay. Councillor Gerard, any questions or comments specifically to the deferral?
No questions, no comments.
Okay. Councillor Holmes?
No comments, thank you. I've already discussed my questions with our CAO, Kelly.
Okay. And Councillor Maiden, any questions or comments to the deferral?
No questions or comments.
Okay. So just in respect of Mr. Armstrong's comment, if there are any additional questions, just looking at a calendar here, Mr. Armstrong, would it be fair if there were additional questions that council needs to have those to you by end of day on Thursday? Is that a reasonable timeline?
Through you, Your Worship, yes. By end of day Thursday, would be fine.
Okay. So end of day Thursday, that's April 23rd. If there are any other questions or comments. And now I'm going to go through voting then on this deferral. And just to be clear, we're deferring this report to the next council meeting. Any additional questions of staff are to be given to staff by the end of Thursday, April 23rd. So going through the list then, Councillor Dalgety, yes or no in favor of the deferral?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson?
Yes.
Councillor Gerard?
Yes.
Councillor Holmes?
Yes.
Councillor Maiden?
Yes.
And Deputy Mayor Minnelli?
Yes.
Thank you. So we are deferred on this item until our next council meeting. Thanks, everyone. So our next item is the Ottawa Street intersection, from the intersection study, excuse me. So these are the recommendations that had come out of Table 6. And this is a little clearer, I think, than the last time we saw these items. And I thank Councillor Dalgety for clarifying some of this, so it's a little easier in this unique format that we're using for our meetings. So the recommendation that council receive the proposed amendments for consideration to implement at the Ottawa Street intersection of Menzies Street and Patterson Street, as well as the intersections of Ottawa Street and Martin Street, as prepared by the Acting Director of Roads and Public Works, dated April 21st, 2020, and that council direct staff to ensure there are 4 signs indicating crossing ahead and 4 signs indicating school crossing at appropriate locations at this intersection, and that council directs staff to procure and install the signage that is currently not in place. So that is our recommendation, which has been clarified. Looking for a mover and seconder for this recommendation.
Councillor Dalgety.
Thank you, Councillor Dalgety. Is there a seconder?
Councillor Maiden.
Thank you, Councillor Maiden. I would go to Mr. Armstrong. Is there anything you might like to speak to on this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just quickly, it was the report was drafted sort of afterthought with some questions from council just about some of the signage and pavement markings in the areas outlined in the report. It's a fairly straightforward recommendation just to install signage for indicated crossing guard areas for these for the intersection of Ottawa at Menzie and Patterson, as well as just ensuring that we repaint some of these intersections, just sort of outlining traffic arrows at the intersection.
Thank you very much for that. CEO Kelly, did you have anything to add?
Nothing at all, Mayor Lowry, thank you.
All right, thank you. So let me see, I think I'm back to the top of the list. So Councillor Dalgety, do you have any comments or questions on this recommendation?
Comments?
Okay. Councillor Ferguson, any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Gerard, any questions or comments?
No comments, thank you.
Okay. And Councillor Holmes, questions
No
or comments?
comments, thank you.
Councillor Maiden, any comments or questions?
No, thank you.
And Deputy Mayor Manelli, comments or questions?
Yeah, I think that 8 signs is too many. I think it should just be one saying school crossing ahead or something. 2 at each, I think is way too much. Thank you.
Okay. I think the idea is that there would be 4 like in each direction. So each direction is covered. I think that's the
But 2 signs, right? In each direction. The council crossing had 4 signs indicating school crossing and 4 signs indicating crossing ahead. Right?
I don't think. Sure. Thank you, Mr. Armstrong.
Oh, absolutely. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Manelli. Yeah, so a lot of times when you're approaching a busier intersection, it's sort of advantageous for vehicular traffic to note that there is a pedestrian crossing ahead, as well as where the crossing guard crossing area is going to be as well. Either way, the posting for either the one set of signs indicating that it's a school crossing or having the warning sign of a crossing ahead. It can go ahead either way, but we just figured it would be a safer and more pragmatic approach to the intersection.
Thank you. I still think it's too many.
Just to be clear, this is CEO Kelly. It will be 8 signs in total, right, Mr. Armstrong?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, Ken, that's correct. It will be 8 signs total.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have a mover and seconder. I'll go through our list for voting. Yes or no in favor of the recommendation. Councillor Dalgety, yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Ferguson?
Yes.
Councillor Gerard?
Yes.
Councillor Holmes?
Yes.
Councillor Maiden?
Yes.
And Deputy Mayor Manelli?
No.
Okay, thank you. That does carry. And this takes us to report number 6. This is the recycle collection and processing contract. And I just want to be sure that we have Ms. Armstrong on the call with us, the environmental compliance coordinator.
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Hi there. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. So the recommendation is that council enter into a contract with Interim Environmental Limited for recycle collection and processing services effective June 1st, 2020 through to December 31st, 2022, with the option of 3 one-year extensions, and that council directs staff to pursue one of the options outlined in the Environmental Compliance Coordinator report, and that council directs staff to offset additional costs from revenue if available or reserves if required of this waste management budget, and that council directs staff to transition out of the provincial blue box program to align with the recycle collection and processing contract. So I'm going to start with some comments from staff, and then we'll go to some discussion from council. Because there is a choice here of which option we're looking to include. We'll at the end of the discussion of council, we'll decide upon that option. So to begin, if I could go to you, Ms. Armstrong, for some comments on this report, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Lowry. So a bit of background, we joined 2 other municipalities from the municipal waste group, so the Township of Montague and the Town of Carleton Place. We put in a proposal for recycle collection and processing because we all have the same service presently, which is single stream, and our contracts expire at the same time. We received a total of 3 bids out of 6 contractors that collected the bids. And in the proposal, we had that we requested that they must provide a bid based on our current status, which was or is single stream. We also requested for a dual stream option, and then as well as an alternative. So what was provided in the bids is outlined under section, I believe the financial implications section. So for Mterra, they provided a single collection weekly status quo, no change. They also provided a dual weekly. As you can see, it's almost double. The reason for that is essentially they would be providing 2 vehicles for 2 separate materials. So one truck would be collecting your fibers or your paper, and the other truck would be collecting your metals and glass. And then the alternate bid that they provided was a dual alternate week, which, as you can see, is substantially less. And then that would mean 1 bin 1 week would be just fiber collection, and then 1 bin another week would be your container, so your plastics and glass. The Green for Life is our current contractor. They solely provided a single weekly bid, so what we are currently doing. And then Waste Management provided the single weekly, dual weekly, as well as 2 alternates, being 1 full award. So if the entire group were to pick, or the full award, because we have a contract with them for collecting garbage based on collecting garbage and our recycle. Just to give an update on our neighboring municipalities, the Township of Montague, they did choose dual alternate weeks. They passed this, I believe their council passed this on April 7th. The Town of Carleton Place, I believe, will be bringing this to their upcoming council meeting. And my understanding is for the Township of Montague, they were saving about $12,000 from moving from single to dual for the remainder of this year. And the Town of Carleton Place would be saving about, I believe it's about $40,000. And then, as you can see with ourselves, we're saving upwards between the single and dual alternate weeks option. We'd be saving about $25,000. Now, I'm just going to also continue with the other recommendations in the report. Obviously, this is in addition. The cost is a bit more. We do not know the markets, hence when you do go out for bids with recycling, it is always going to be a bit volatile and variable. You don't because we do not know what's coming. And in speaking with the treasurer, we would be able to offset these costs from either revenue or reserves. It is available for the remainder of the 2020 budget year. And as well, for the last with regards to the transition out of the provincial Blue Box program. Again, I'm sure you've been receiving a lot of information from AMO as well as the province with regards to what is coming, which is essentially the province is wanting to have municipalities move out of, come to a collective agreement to either transition out of providing the Blue Box service and leaving it to stewards, so and not having municipalities responsible for it.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Is there anything you may wish to add, Mr. Armstrong, as acting director?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I have no further comment. I think it was eloquently placed. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And CEO Kelly, anything you wish to add?
No, I think we've had some discussion on this, and I do think that the option of the dual alternate weeks, even though it's going to require a little bit of a change for our residents, I'm sure that that people are up for the challenge at this point in time. We will do our best to provide people with a slightly different messaging to instruct them on how to deal with the new system. It is a changeover that would happen in summer months, so that's also a good time of year to try and do these changes as opposed to say winter months or anything like that. So I think the timing of the year is good. We'll get information out ahead of the change so people have an understanding, and then we'll be educating throughout the process. So I think we have an opportunity here to do something a little bit differently, hopefully make the impact of this change a little bit less financially on us, and we do have the ability to move some money around to deal with that overture as well. But this seems to be the position we're in, and what we have before us is one of these options to provide service to our residents.
Thank you for your comments. So that would be option 3 if I'm looking at this properly. But before we put any option on the floor, I would like everyone to have the opportunity to ask any questions or provide any comments, and then we'll look for an option to come forward. Starting with Councillor Ferguson, any questions or comments?
I agree with the CAO's comments, and I guess the only comment I would have is found on page 29, and it's under the dual processing collection, whereby they are allocating 12 weeks. And my question is, how aggressive will their transition be in relation to promotion and education, which is very significant, I think, in allowing the people to get a better residents to get a better understanding of what is happening.
So Ms. Armstrong?
So, yes, through you, Mayor Lowry, to Councillor Ferguson. So when in having conversations with them, Tara, we were trying to decipher to be an appropriate time length to be able to provide promotion education and to allow residents, a bit of time and certainly flexibility, because it does take time for a change. It's a change in behavior as well, and we were actually a bit surprised. And Tara has obviously they've been in the business quite some time, and they have actually said there's been times where it's only taken about 4 weeks in some locations that they've dealt with. So we feel the 12-week is enough time to be aggressive enough and to provide enough time that if we do have any questions or anything like that, another provision that they provided was that they have, and certainly something that we inquired as a group, because again, keeping in mind that it's not, if we do this, and certainly because the Township of Montague will be moving towards alternating weeks as well, we wanted to ensure that we were all of our residents were able to have their questions answered and any issues addressed, and they certainly were able to provide that. They were indicating that they would have staff available for all municipalities for this, for any questions or inquiries or follow-ups. So we feel that this time frame should be enough time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks
Councillor
so
Gerard?
much.
Councillor Gerard, any questions or comments?
Yes, actually, a couple of questions with regards to how this is going to be implemented. Based on what I'm reading, it looks like our current recycling pickup, it's still going to be the same company. So that has been doing our recycling is still going to be picking up our boxes, but it's now going to be a third company that's going to be responsible for it. What I'm wondering about is how we're going to implement this so that the residents are going to get a box, a yellow box dropped in front of their house, and they're just going to get to start to work on this. Like, where the residents going to get their questions answered, and how is this going to be implemented?
So, Ms.
Yes, through the mayor. Yes, through the mayor to Councillor Gerard. So that's a great question, and certainly has come up as well. So once our contract is finished with our current contractor and moving forward to implement that, one of the things would be obviously to see if we would do the entire area of Mississippi Mills, if we'd focus on certain areas in the beginning. Yes, those contractors would be responsible, both the sub and the general contractor being Terra, to providing these bins, purchasing these bins. They have also they have said that they would be putting it's not a tag, but it would be essentially our program information on these yellow bins. And there certainly would be a period of time for residents to be able to adapt to the program. So, you know, it's not like if a resident accidentally put, you know, the containers or glass in the wrong bin, that it wouldn't be collected. And certainly, I think one other nice thing would be that fact that the material recycling facility that is being that this material is being brought to is actually does process and market both single and dual streams, which is pretty rare in the recycling industry. So that if there are issues at the beginning, it wouldn't be as big of a deal versus if we were to be bringing it to a solely dual material recycling facility and they received, you know, a container load or something where we would be penalized or could be penalized for it. So it allows for that time to do it, and certainly for the contractors to be able to follow up. And because we have a relationship with our current subcontractor, they've been great. Daily provide information on any issues that we ever have. So broken bins, late set outs, if there's garbage put in recycling, we always receive this information. So even for us, we were able to track this, and if we notice an area or something like that, we can follow up with appropriate promotion and education for that group of residents.
Do you have further?
Okay, I guess my biggest concern is that is this going to be just like an instant start? Like, we say we have 12 weeks. Does that mean that they're going to be getting both a blue box and a yellow box allowed at the end of their driveway for 12 weeks, and then all of a sudden there's going to be a cutoff, and then they'll only go 1 week they'll get one week they'll get the other? Because let's assume that the resident finds that their garbage or their recycling has not been picked up. My guess is it's not going to be kept and left out, hopefully not left out until the following week, but it also isn't just going to end up being put into a garbage dumpster because possibly somebody's lazy and they don't want to follow the rules. Is that what you're talking about with regards to, like, sure, the pickup, the company itself can get the information back to you. What my concern is, what about getting the information to the residents as to how they're supposed to do this?
So I wonder, Ms. Armstrong, if you can provide some clarity as to what the communications would be on the new rollout and what the 12-week period would look like for transition.
Certainly, Madam Mayor. So the 12-week transition would essentially, it's not that January or June 1st we would start and this is what it is. Essentially, we would continue with single stream because obviously with the contract not starting until June 1st, Mterra would not have gone out and purchased any bins yet. So this also allows them to give time to purchase the bins, which typically takes anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks for delivery. So in that time, we definitely would be able to do mail outs to all property owners. We would certainly be having all of our information on Facebook, our website, and we would be adjusting in the sense of, even though we haven't provided bins right away, we could certainly be providing material because it would be the same subcontractor. If they would be aware that they'd be able to provide any tagging system to say, you know, this is what we're doing. It's going to be a transition up until the end of the summer months to allow. So even if those people are on holidays, although we are in a pandemic, but if these are lifted and people are away, we are able to address any concerns that arise from it. But just to note that if this is approved and we move ahead with Mterra, we certainly would be meeting with them in the next week or two to be able to have a concrete rollout for our municipality, and obviously the neighboring ones as well.
Does that help provide clarity, Councillor Gerard?
I guess not really, because it's saying that the new company is going to provide bins and information, and Abby is saying that we are then going to double up and start to advertise with regards to this program. I'm not really sure how this is going to save us money if we're going to be spending more money with regards to giving the people the information on what we're doing. I guess my biggest concern is that we have to somehow better get the information to the residents, but I'm thinking instead of coming up in multiple different ways, I think it should be done in a very simple, single version, I guess.
I think one of the things we found is really effective is that making sure we do get information out in a variety of ways will ensure that we reach as many people as possible. I think at the beginning of the meeting we were discussing regarding the fire ban, are people getting all this information? And we've used a variety of ways to try to get that information out. And I think the same would be the case for any changes to our garbage and recycling, is that, you know, a mail out to individual homes is a hard thing to miss. If we have it in our news feed and on our social media channels as well, that helps. And then with whatever tagging and whatnot may be occurring with the provider itself, I think it needs to have a multiple of approaches here so that we do get everyone. I think that's how we try to do most of our communication, is we use a variety of ways and hope that people hear at least one or two of them so it helps stick. I see that Theo Kelly has something on the screen here for us. Would you like to speak to it?
Yes, thank you for allowing me to chime in on that. So basically, you can see on your screen here, this is a representative sample of a calendar. This is generally how these things are communicated to the residents. You know, when we talk about providing them with information, you can see that it highlights your day of collection, and it highlights what's actually on that day of collection, whether it's a garbage day, a blue bin, which would be your recyclable containers, your green bin, which is your organics, and then it alternates every other week. So we'll just look at the 16th here, you can see was a blue bin or a container day. April 22nd is a black bin, which is a paper and Cardboard Day. This process has been in place in the city of Ottawa for, I would guess, 20 plus years. It's a fairly standard approach to dealing with dual alternate collection schedules across North America. And as you know, I was a former director of the International Association of Solid Waste in North America. I've seen this across Canada and the States, fairly prevalent, and this is typical of what people get used to. When you're actually collecting at the curb, the idea that you take everything, no matter what people put out, doesn't help support this education component. And you do actually at some point have to say, no, you've put out the wrong material today, so we're going to leave this and you can put it out next week. And that's just part of education with the resident. And they're usually given something to indicate, like a tag or a sticker, to say, if you have any questions, please give us a call. And at that point in time, it's like, yes, you've provided, or you put out the wrong material this week. Hold that for next week. We'll be happy to come get it next week for you. So I'll leave it at that, Mayor Lowry. Thank you.
Thanks for that clarity. Yeah, thank you for that. And it's funny you said about 20 years. I remember being in Quebec City and more than 20 years ago, and that was the process that we had in place then too. I'm going to move along and go to Councillor Holmes. Any questions or comments?
No, I think anything I would want to comment on has been said, so thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Maiden, any comments or questions?
I think my only concerns were that maybe if this is instituted June 1st, it's a little bit too short of a time for people to be aware of it. I'm concerned that it's over our budget, but that's what was bid, so I guess we live with that. And I'm wondering if the contractor, or the recommended contractor, Interim, what might be open to leaving a little bit more time for people to get educated on it. Because right now it's every week and basically everything, and people are going to start using and storing additional bins and so forth. And so that would be a question, I guess, to Ms. Armstrong. Has that been discussed at all? I mean, you talked about their education and so forth, but would they be willing, do you think, to extend the time for maybe another 4 weeks?
Hi, Mayor Lowry, to Councillor Maiden. Yes, that's definitely been a discussion, and they are willing to adjust any scheduling requests that we would have.
Through the chair, thank you, Abby, and yeah, I do. I tend to support option 3 generally. I've lived with it before in Ottawa and Winnipeg. Works fairly well, but it does take time to get used to. Thank you.
And Mayor Lowry, if I could just add one thing. One thing I haven't really heard in our discussion and on this is kind of why we do this. And just to, I guess, hopefully put everybody's mind at ease. We're not doing it just to make it more complicated for people, or just to make it difficult. The rationale is when you separate out the recyclables, these are actually commodities, and they are actually sold in the market. And by separating them out, we can preserve a little bit better the integrity of the product, which allows you to hopefully command a better price. Commanding a better price means a little more revenue for everybody in the picture when you go to sell this. Which helps deal with the cost. So really what this is about is trying to make the best commodity. So as we push it back to the resident and say, can you sort this out a little bit better, you're helping us make the system more financially sustainable by doing that. So that's kind of the gist. So as everybody knows, it's not just about making it complicated. Yes, it does get complicated, but that's not the purpose. There is a method to the madness, we'll say.
That's actually a really good point, CEO Kelly, and perhaps that can be part of the communication that goes out is it's not just to make things challenging, that this is actually a commodity, and wanting to have best price possibility is of course in everybody's best interest. Councillor Maiden, did you have anything further you had wanted to ask or comment on?
No, thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Manelli?
Well, at first I wasn't too happy with the recommendation, but now that I get thinking about it, I think it's fine. Just a little bit worried about residents maybe with that live in a 400 square foot apartment with and get an extra bin, and I guess maybe the apartment does the recycling, the commercial end of it. I don't know anything about, so. But I'm in favor. I don't think there's a problem with, now that I get looking at all the information a little closer.
Okay. Ms. Armstrong, did you have any comment about the buildings? I think that Deputy Mayor Manelli is correct in that most of them would be taking care of their own recycling and garbage anyway.
Yes, Mayor Lowry, they do we do have a few that look after their own through their separate private contracts, and then we do have a few that we do look after as well, where we would have they'd have larger containers essentially that are provided curbside. So all of these would be switched out, or an additional bin would be provided for those that are not covered under a private contractor.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that clarity. And Councillor Dalgety, any comments or questions from yourself?
Yeah, I got a comment and a question.
Okay.
My comment, and this is just my opinion, I would like a little more time than a month for something like this if possible. It feels very tight. If we wanted to put public consultation into this, this would be nearly impossible before we move forward with it. My question, 50% of the bidders did not respond. Was there any feedback why? And that's through the chair to the environmental coordinator.
Thanks, Councillor Dalgety. So, yeah, back over to Ms. Armstrong.
Sorry, hi, Mayor Lowry to Councillor Dalgety. Yes, we didn't receive any explanation why. I don't know if, I believe that with regards to how our proposal was laid out, we did request to have contractors bid for our status quo, which is our single stream. And in looking at some of the contractors that picked up the bid, they do not have material recycling facilities that process single stream, so it wouldn't be cost effective for them to even bid on it. That's essentially what our municipal waste group concluded without really getting into any details with the actual contractors.
Any further question, Councillor Dalgety?
So just for clarification, on the tender, it did ask for dual alternative weeks or just single weekly?
Through Mayor Lowry to Councillor Dalgety, yes. So in our proposal, we requested the single weekly. So what we all have presently. We also requested dual weekly, and we requested an alternate. So whatever they would want to provide to us, and MCARA provided the dual alternate week, which is an extremely common service across the recycling board.
Thank you. That's all, Mayor Lowry.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. So we've had questions and comments from everyone. I generally think I'm hearing that there's some concerns about how it will be rolled out, but I generally think I'm hearing that the low bid for the alternate week dual stream seems to be the option council is in favor of. So that's option 3. So I'm looking for a mover and seconder then for the recommendation, including that it be option 3. Is there a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Holmes?
Ferguson.
And Councillor Ferguson. I'm just going to give a moment. Is there any further comment or question with the recommendation with option 3 being the choice of council? So I'll just give a moment.
I am comfortable with the 12-week transition period. I humbly feel that if we can't train residents in 12 weeks, they probably don't want to be trained.
Interesting comments. You're perhaps not wrong. Any other comments before we vote?
Councillor Gerard?
Yes.
I guess I'm also, I'm not exactly sure personally, so for the 12 weeks, does that mean that they are going to have the option of both boxes, a yellow and a blue box at their end of their driveway, and then at the end of the 12 weeks, it'll go 5 monthly or every second week? Or are we just starting this cold turkey? And if that's the case, like I guess my concern is how this is being implemented.
Ms. Armstrong, can you speak to the implementation program?
Hi, yes, Mayor Lowry to Councillor Gerard. So, as mentioned earlier, once this contract would be awarded, if it is to move to dual, it would be essentially immediately that Emterra would be purchasing the bins. So we would be continuing as single stream. However, we would be continuing with getting our promotion education material out during this time. And the bins typically take upwards of 4 to 6 weeks for delivery. And again, during that additional 6 weeks or so, we would be providing additional P&E material to our residents.
Okay, Councillor Gerard, does that help?
Well, not really. So are they going to have a time period that they're going to have a blue box and a yellow box at their end of their driveway before this gets implemented? Or as soon as the yellow boxes show up in 4 to 5 weeks, does it just start automatically that they're going to be alternating weeks with their boxes?
Ms. Armstrong?
Through Mayor Lowry to Councillor Gerard. So so the implementation would be once in receipt of the yellow boxes, the contractor would be providing the yellow bins to the residents with the materials. They would be continuing to collect on a weekly basis. With regards to if 1 week immediately is going to be fiber and 1 week immediately will be containers and glass, that would likely be within the 6 to 8 week window, and residents would be expected to, after obviously the 12 weeks, that it would be a blue and yellow bin process.
So they will be having, for the first duration of the time that they've received their yellow boxes, they are going to we'll be training them to use the boxes separately, and then in 12 weeks they will not have the option. They can only put one box out per week, one blue box or the yellow box on alternate weeks.
So through Mayor Lowry to Councillor Gerard, I don't believe that we would immediately be picking up because it's just in case they do have one truck set out. So that's where you go to the dual weekly, where it might be a bit more costly. That's something that I'd have to follow up with them to see if they actually would be having the trucks collect both materials, but it would be in 2 separate trucks if that would be the case, and I don't know the impacts of that cost.
Okay, I guess that's my question, as to how this is going to be implemented then. So they get the boxes in 5 weeks, they get a new yellow box dropped off at the end of their driveway with a piece of paper stuck on it, and then they have to wait until the 12-week time, and then they'll start at that point using the yellow box 1 week and the blue box next week? Or are they going to be able to put both boxes out? Like, I'm not sure. I'm confused, and I'm not sure how the residents are going to know what they're supposed to be doing as well, how this is being implemented.
Perhaps once the information comes out, and I'm sure that will be circulated to council as well, maybe that will help clarify some of this for you, Councillor Gerard. but certainly we're not the first community that has moved through a process of leaving single stream and going to dual stream. And I have great faith in Mississippi Millions to be able to figure this out, and we'll certainly, I think, take the comments that you have of concern about implementation being clear, and I'm sure that staff will take that into consideration so that communications are abundantly clear, so that everyone understands how this transition period will roll out.
Okay.
With that, I'm going to go to a vote on this. We have a mover and seconder for option 3. Just trying to see if there was anything else in this. So the recommendation is that we're entering into the contract with Intera. Council is directing option 3 to the Environmental Compliance Coordinator. We're directing staff to offset additional costs from revenue if that's available, and if not, from reserves of the waste management budget. And council is directing also that staff transition out of the provincial blue box program to align with the recycling collection and processing contract. So we have a mover and seconder for this. I'm going to go through our list of members for voting, starting with Councillor Dalgety. Yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Gerard.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes.
Yes.
Councillor Maiden.
Yes.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Manelli.
Yes.
Thank you very much, folks. So we've made a decision on the recycling collection and processing contract. The next is the interim report on the financial implications of COVID-19. So this is pages 33 to 42 of your package. And I believe we have our treasurer, Ms. Rhonda Whitmarsh, on the line with us. Do we have you with us this afternoon?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you for joining us. So I will pass this to you if you could walk us through your second report.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Lowry. So this is an update from the report that I presented at the last meeting on April 7th, and does contain much of the same information. I have included on this report financial statements to April 14th, which was the date of writing the report, for specific departments, particularly the daycare, recreation and curling, the library, building department, and water and sewer, with comparative information for the same period in 2019. I've also included revenues for the Almont Town Hall, the auditorium, for that same time period. And you'll note in my report that the revenues are consistent with 2019 at just around $14,000. So on table 1, page 38, it notes that the daycare is currently reporting a deficit of $20,538 to April 14th. But for the same time period in 2019, they had a surplus of $56,366. 2020 includes salaries paid till April 3rd and includes the March billing to parents prior to the closure on March 16th. And as I'm sure you're aware, to mitigate losses effective April 6th, all staff at the daycare, with the exception of the daycare manager, were placed on temporary leave. Table 2, page 39, shows the recreation and curling department with a deficit, combined deficit to April 14th of $3,863. The same time period last year, they had a surplus of $37,297. Table 3, page 40, is for the library. Again, reporting a deficit of $16,730, and it was $4,774 in 2019.
I just want to note that it is not unusual for the library to have a deficit at this time of year because they're waiting on their household grants to arrive. And as Christine mentioned, and it was part of her report as well, that all but 4 staff have been placed on temporary leave, again effective April 6th. Table 4 on page 41 shows the building department with a surplus of $11,360. But again, the same time period last year, their surplus was $58,175. And water and sewer has a surplus of $93,761. Same period last year, just over 80,000. So water and sewer is consistent with the prior year. I will continue to monitor cash flows moving forward. As mentioned in my report, the cash and investments balance is presently $15.77 million. And I believe that many projects in the capital program will be deemed or will be on hold right now unless they're deemed critical. And that's will go on until the emergency orders are lifted. So as directed on April 7th, I will continue to provide these reports to Council at each upcoming meeting.
Thank you very much, Ms. Whitmarsh. I will go to Council for some questions to this report or any comments they may have, starting with Councillor Gerard.
No comment, thank you.
Councillor Holmes?
I really wanted to thank our treasurer for giving us such a good report. And I think it's telling us that we're okay now, but we need to be cautious. So thank you very much.
Councillor Maiden?
I just echo Councillor Holmes's remarks. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Manelli?
No comments. Thank you, Rhonda.
Councillor Dalgety?
Thank you for the report and no comments. Thank you.
Councillor Ferguson?
Yes, I'm pleased with the report and in better shape than I anticipated, but I guess we will see further down the road. Thank you for the report.
And I'm looking for a mover and seconder to receive this interim report for information.
I'll move.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Manelli, and a seconder.
Councillor Dalgety.
I've got Councillor Dalgety. And I'm sorry, I missed asking CEO Kelly if you had any comments on this interim report to share with Council.
No, other than I did hear some interest in us trying to do some type of future projections with regards to impacts on cash flow. So that would be trying to put some assumptions in place around delinquency. So what we think, basically, do we think that people are going to run into trouble paying their bills? And we are going to try and look at that as best we can and try and build that into a cash flow projection for the future, just to make councillors aware. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that. So we have a mover and seconder. I'll go through the list looking for those in favor of receiving this interim report. Councillor Dalgety, yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Ferguson?
Yes.
Councillor Gerard?
Yes.
Councillor Holmes?
Yes.
Councillor Maiden?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Manelli?
Yes.
Thank you. So that is received. And that brings us to the bylaws. We have 2 bylaws, the open air burning bylaw, the open air burning bylaw, and lifting the 0.3 meter reserve. This is part 2 of reference plan 27R-11430. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder for the 2 bylaws.
I'll move.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And a second?
Ferguson, second.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Would anyone like to remove one of these bylaws for separate vote or discussion? I'll give a moment. Hearing not, I will go through the list then. We have a mover and seconder for the 2 bylaws. And I'll go through our list for support of passing these two bylaws. Starting with Councillor Dalgety, yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Ferguson,
Yes.
Councillor Gerard,
Yes.
Councillor Holmes,
Yes.
Councillor Maiden,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Manelli.
Yes.
All right, the bylaws are passed. This brings us to the confirmatory bylaw. I'm looking for a mover and seconder for the confirmatory. Confirms the proceedings of this afternoon.
Councillor Dalgety.
Councillor Gerard?
Okay, Councillor Dalgety and Councillor Gerard. All those then in favor, starting with Councillor Dalgety.
Yes.
Councillor Ferguson? Sorry, Councillor Ferguson?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Gerard?
Yes.
Councillor Holmes?
Yes.
Councillor Maiden?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Manelli?
Yes.
And mover and seconder for adjournment.
I move.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
I second. Oh, sorry.
I'm not sure who that was.
Holmes.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Then all in favor of adjournment, starting with Councillor Dalgety, yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Ferguson?
Yes.
Councillor Gerard?
Yes.
Councillor Holmes?
Yes.
Councillor Maiden?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Manelli?
Yes.
Thank you very much, folks. We are adjourned, and I thank you for another good meeting. We're getting good at this electronic version of meeting together. And Deputy Mayor Manelli, you're looking really sharp. So thanks for the suit. Take care, everybody.